الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور، ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. هو الذي خلقكم من طين ثم قضى أجلا وأجل مسمى عنده ثم أنتم تمترون. وهو الله في السماوات وفي الأرض يعلم سركم وجهركم ويعلم ما تكسبون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. فقد كذبوا بالحق لما جاءهم، فسوف يأتيهم أنباء ما كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا من قبلهم من قرن مكناهم في الأرض ما لم نمكن لكم، وأرسلنا السماء عليهم مدرارا وجعلنا الأنهار تجري من تحتهم فأهلكناهم بذنوبهم وأنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين. ولو نزلنا عليك كتابا في قرطاس فلمسوه بأيديهم لقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين. وقالوا لولا أنزل عليه ملك ولو أنزلنا ملكا لقضي الأمر ثم لا ينظرون. ولو جعلناه ملكا لجعلناه رجلا وللبسنا عليهم ما يلبسون. ولقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون. قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظروا كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين. قل لمن ما في السماوات والأرض قل لله. كتب على نفسه الرحمة ليجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه. الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون. وله ما سكن في الليل والنهار وهو السميع العليم. قل أغير الله أتخذ وليا فاطر السماوات والأرض وهو يطعم ولا يطعم. قل إني أمرت أن أكون أول من أسلم ولا تكونن من المشركين. قل إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم. من يصرف عنه يومئذ فقد رحمه وذلك الفوز المبين. وإن يمسسك الله بضر فلا كاشف له إلا هو، وإن يمسسك بخير فهو على كل شيء قدير، وهو القاهر فوق عباده، وهو الحكيم الخبير. قل أي شيء أكبر شهادة؟ قل الله شهيد بيني وبينكم، وأوحي إلي هذا القرآن لأنذركم به ومن بلغ. أئنكم لتشهدون أن مع الله آلهة أخرى؟ قل لا أشهد. قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم، الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. All praise and gratitude is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful. We seek His help and forgiveness from the evil of our souls and from the sins that we have committed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings on our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of his righteous followers to the day of judgment. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those righteous followers. Ameen. Alhamdulillah, everyone. Today is our last of the series of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, we will not be finishing up all of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have been revealed in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reason I mentioned that is because there are many names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we don't know about. So the majority opinion among the scholars is that there's not just 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but what He has revealed to us is 99. And there's not a general consensus either on the exact 99 number and what they are, but we have covered so far the names that are authentically reported through the Sunnah and in the Quran. And we hope that everyone is going to continue to call on to Allah by those names, and that it increased your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it increased your longingness to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It made it easy for you to deal with death and sickness and situations where you feel hopeless. We hope that it removed doubts in your heart about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we had mentioned in the first video, all of the different benefits of getting to know the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we hope that this will continue with us after Ramadan. And inshallah, we could always take care and look at other names of Allah. Today, I want to cover 2 to 3 really powerful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most of us are not using this particular name for sure, because I haven't been, like, when I learned about this name in depth, I would call on to this name, and it helps you really in situations where you feel that you don't understand the big picture, where you feel that you have put your effort into certain tasks and things are happening, but you don't see the big picture and the way things are going for you right now, even though you have the best of hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you're not seeing where life is taking you, and you don't really know the wisdom and the subtlety behind the things that are happening in your life, and how is this going to really go on benefiting me in the long term. And so in those situations, we call on to the name of Allah, which is Al-Latif. Alif, Lam, Lam, Ta, Ya, Fa, Al-Latif with the Ta. The one who is subtle, the one who works in hidden ways. So that's the best that English could really do for us, and really doesn't even touch the surface of how deep and how powerful this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Latif is. So we will inshallah go through step by step. There are multiple layers of the name of Allah al-Latif, and in general, you can call onto this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you are looking for tawfiq, for success, when you're looking for protection, when you're looking for someone to be kind to you, for Allah's kindness, gentleness, and to guide you to what benefits you. So once again, for protection, for success, for matters where you need Allah's guidance to lead you towards something that will benefit you and give you success. So in these certain situations, you can call on to Allah al-Latif, and also in situations of confusion where you don't know why things are happening. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this name in the Quran 7 times, right? So it's not mentioned a lot of times, which makes it even more special. So we'll look at some of those occurrences in the Quran. Now it does show up quite a lot with Khabir, the name of Allah Khabir, the one who's aware. So the one who's subtle, works in hidden ways. You might not understand the whole wisdom behind the way things are happening, but he is Khabir, and he's well aware of what he is doing, and he's well aware of your situation. So let's take it in layers and different meanings, step by step, of what al-Latif means. Number one, al-Latif means the one who's forbearing, the one who has the ability to punish his slaves and his creation, but he holds his punishment back, and he does not hold them accountable right away when they commit a sin. So Allah is very patient, he's very forbearing, and he is not looking forward to punish people, but he gives them chances after chances, even though he has the ability to punish them. Um, and that makes him Al-Aziz. Al-Aziz, the one who has the ability to punish, and the one who is powerful, but he's also forbearing, Al-Latif, because he does not inflict punishment on people right away for their crimes. So that's out of his mercy, and that connects it back to his other names, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. So you can see how the different names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come to work together. In the last video, we mentioned how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving, Al-Ghafar, Al-Ghafir, Al-Ghafur, but he also says Al-Aziz, Al-Ghafur, that just because he forgives, don't take him for granted. He is not doing that out of weakness. He is still full of strength, but he's just doing it out of his mercy. So don't take his forgiveness for granted, and to play with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rules, and to think that we are going to get away, because he is Al-Aziz. At the same time, he is Al-Ghafur, forgiving. So Latif here, first meaning was forbearing. The second is he would make creation be a cause for facilitating or making things easy for you or for other creations. So what I mean by that is, for example, we would not be here today unless Allah put the love in our parents to take care of us, right? It might not be true in the animal kingdom or with other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but where they are carnivorous animals that can eat their own children. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the love in your parents' hearts, that even if brought certain conditions, financial conditions to your parents, there's certain parents who didn't want to have a child, and then they had that child, and they have certain hatred towards that child. May Allah protect us. Alhamdulillah. In general, what happens is, as soon as they see the child, that love for them increases for that child, and they cannot help but to take care of that child. That is out of Al-Latif, that he allowed that love to take place so that your parents took care of you, because we would not have survived even one single fall. Imagine you fell off of, in the crib, or while we were sleeping, a pillow covered up our face and we couldn't breathe. I mean, there's so many situations where the parent had to intervene and make sure that they took care of the need of the child right away. Otherwise, we could have been literally one accident away from death. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that love in the parents, especially in the mother's heart, to be up all night, keep an eye out. Is the child choking? Is he breathing properly? Checking up on them. losing their sleep, all of that to facilitate for you to be able to grow up healthy. And subhanallah, how ungrateful is human being, and how forgiving, how forgetful we are, that we have no idea, and we forget all those pains that our parents go through until we have our own child, and then we realize what our parents did for us. So as a side note, let's make the offer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protecting our parents if they have passed away, to make the offer for them sincerely, and to stay in touch with their relatives and do khair, because after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his obedience, he talks about the obedience of the parents. So let's take this opportunity in Ramadan to make sure we did not hurt them, and to continue to show our love and affection and respect to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in relation to the second point, where he facilitates his creation to take care of other creation, Allah says, Allahu latifun bi'ibadihi yarzuqu man yasha'u wa huwa al-qawiyyul aziz. Allah is subtle with his servants. He gives provisions to whom he wills, and he is the most powerful and the most mighty. So again, Allah talks about his rizq. He talks about his ability to benefit you by making means to benefit you through his other creations. And then he reminds us that he is the most powerful and the most high and the most mighty. The third aspect of Al-Latif is that he is the one who gives us gifts. He forbears with us and he gives us gifts, and he's always loves to give people, even without them asking. One of the previous videos I mentioned that a lot of people especially should be making dua and thanking Allah for three parts of their body, which is their heart, their eyes, and their ears. These are three organs that without which our life would be completely different. And so those are gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us: working eyesight, ears, and ability to breathe, and heart that pumps blood so many times a minute. This is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he gave us all of these gifts, and that in Arabic is known as a lataif, right? Lataif in Arabic means a gift. And so the name of Allah, Al-Latif, comes from the one who gives gifts, the one who doesn't just give you what you deserve, but he gives you without you even asking, and he gives you gifts like no one else, and he continues to do that. That is Al-Latif as well. Another meaning of Al-Latif is the one who is hidden from his creation. Again, for those who have doubts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they get to know that Allah is Latif, which means that it is meant for him to not be seen by his creation. That's the way he is. That's the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Latif, means that he's not supposed to be seen by his creation, but we can witness him in what he has created. And the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all around us. But he is not going to manifest himself physically in front of us. And that is part of the test of this life, is we have to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of everything he has told us, and we don't need to see him because he's not meant to be seen by human beings or by his creation. And that's that sounds like a very simple point, but a lot of people just don't get that, right? They expect things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There were people in the time of the Prophet that would challenge him to say that certain people. There was one individual who said that if you were to bring us a ladder, or like if the sky was to open up an opening, and a ladder that extends from here all the way up to that opening, and then we see you walk up those stairs, and you go and talk to your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a very demeaning way, they're saying this, and then you bring a letter to us saying that, yes, this is Allah, and you bring it down to us, we would still not believe in you. Subhanallah. Even if people were to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those that have corrupt hearts, don't want to believe and don't want to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll still find an excuse. So Allah says, لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. Again, in Surah Al-An'am, verse 103, we notice that the ayah ends with Latif and Khabir, the one who is subtle and the one who knows, is well aware. And he says, our vision cannot perceive him, but he perceives everything. He can see everything, but our vision cannot perceive him. In fact, if he was to allow us to see him, we would not be able to handle it. As in the case of Musa, who wanted to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply revealed himself just to the mountain and it crumbled into pieces. And it was such a shocking state that Musa alayhi salam fainted, where in this case, Allah is saying that He is meant to not be seen by His creation, but He sees all of us and He sees everything that we do. Because He is Al-Latif and Al-Khabir. The fifth point, and I will summarize all of this. So this is all the different aspects of Al-Latif. So you get to know now how powerful this name is. The fifth point is that nothing is hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So if we really want to benefit directly on who Al-Latif is, and we know that He sees us and we cannot see Him, then we need to be aware that even the things that we hide internally Allah is well aware of them, because He's Latif and He is Khabir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows even the intentions that you have. You could look like you are supporting the Muslims and you love Islam, and that you're going into certain gatherings that makes it look like you're a good Muslim, but Allah knows what's really inside of you. So we ask Allah to protect us from any type of nifaq and hypocrisy. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, if you look at certain people like Sumayya and her husband Yasir, who died as first shuhada for Islam, they never got to see the establishment of Islam. They never got to see the Prophet ﷺ successful in that sense, where they saw Islam being manifested in the lives of the people around him and it being applied at a societal level. They never got to experience Ramadan. They didn't get to experience going to a masjid and praying in congregation. They didn't get to experience Quran halaqas. They didn't get to experience lectures and Friday sermons. They only knew that this is the truth and they believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were successful without even physically seeing Islam manifested in the lives of people, or without society accepting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as their Lord and a community of Muslims that were worshipping Allah publicly. They never got to see that, but they were successful. Whereas you have munafiqun, the hypocrites, who were praying behind the Prophet ﷺ after he was victorious and he went to Medina and Islam was spreading. People were accepting Islam in big numbers, but there were still hypocrites among him who actually saw and prayed behind the Muslims. Physically, they were there, but they died as the worst of disbelievers. Even a kafir, a disbeliever, is a lesser degree than a hypocrite, because a hypocrite pretends that he's a Muslim, but inside he's not. He's exited Islam. And so Allah knows about those things. Allah is saying that you don't think that you can fool me, because He is not just aware of what you do outwardly, but also your very deepest thoughts. Ya Bunayya, and this we get to Luqman alayhi salam. This is such a powerful ayah because it is a father giving advice to his child. And if you just study these few verses, it gives you a perfect recipe of what a Quranic advice looks like, or parenting advice looks like for a parent. When you want to give your child an advice, everyone wants their children to be successful. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to show us in this ayah is what is the higher priority and how do you prioritize in what you want them to learn from you. Because if the only focus is better education, better degree, more money, study hard, get good grades, every parent is going to want to do that. But what's more important is the love that you put in the seeds that you put in the child's heart when he's very young, so that seed will grow into love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, if you're not there, if you're not aware, because either you passed away or you're not physically around, then it reminds the child that Allah is Khabir and Allah is Latif. So He is well aware, and He is not. He would not. You cannot escape Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what Luqman alayhi salam does, this is Surah Luqman, verse number 16. He tells his child about who Allah is, and look at the name he uses to make sure that the child understands his message. And the name he used was Latif, right? So he says, Ya bunayya innaha in taku mithqala habbatin min khardalin fatakun fi sakhratin aw fi samawati aw fi al-ard ya'ti biha Allah inna Allah latifun khabir. Once again, this is the third time we're seeing this Latif being connected with the name of Allah, Khabir. And Luqman said, O my son, indeed, if wrong should be of the weight of a mustard seed, and if it was to be hidden within a rock, And the rock could be anywhere in between the heavens and the earth. Allah will bring forth what's hidden. And indeed, Allah is Al-Latif and Al-Khabir. So what Luqman Islam is showing his son is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power is beyond your imagination. And if you were to have a rock, which is hid, if you were to have a mustard seed, and that was hidden inside of a rock, and the rock could be anywhere in the heavens and the earth, Allah will bring that seed forth if He needed to. And so our sins, if we take them lightly, a lot of times people say, "Oh, that's just a minor sin." But for Allah Subhanahu, the one you're disobeying, that's a major thing, right? Because we should look at anything that disobeys Allah as something major, even though there is a distinction between minor and major sins. But what's amazing here is Luqman Islam wants his child to know who Allah is and His power and His subtlety and His ability to hold you accountable. Doesn't matter how protected you feel and how you feel that you got away with what you're trying to get away with, even if your parents are not there, Allah is Latif and He's Khabir. And so that kind of understanding, He's implanting that in his child when he was very young. So even if Luqman alayhi salam passes away or he's not there, the child will know that Allah is there. He's always watching. So that is the fifth meaning of Al-Latif, the one from whom nothing is hidden. The sixth layer to Al-Latif is the one who's subtle, and what he creates is so sophisticated in his design that it might need a lot of effort for us to realize how sophisticated his creation is. And science, in a way, has allowed us to appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. For a believer, there's no contradiction between science and the Quran. In fact, science, if used properly, can help us get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we see the sophistication in His creation. And that is Al-Latif, that what He creates is very sophisticated. We have research on human beings and we know the inner and every detail of human anatomy, which should make us love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are still people who that's not enough for them, right? For someone, birth of a child is more than enough of a miracle for them to accept Islam. And for other people, they could see bigger signs. They could see floods and hurricanes and weather changes and all kinds of signs, but it doesn't affect them. Because the hearts are not accepting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the point I was trying to make was, if you want to look it up, this is an example that we've used with other halakas. Just look up fish that makes mathematical patterns under the ocean, and you'll come up with a fish that's known as a puffer fish. That is unbelievable, the sophistication, the designs that it creates on the sand underwater. And when you see that, a believer would automatically say, Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, glory be to Allah, and he will do dhikr of Allah. You say, Subhanallah, how perfect is Allah and how weak we are as His creation. And Allah, who can make something so sophisticated, He has to be perfect. And His creation has weaknesses, but Allah is Al-Aziz, Allah is Al-Qawi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Khabir, Al-Latif, right? So it makes us love Allah. So yeah, look that up, inshallah, on YouTube. You will be amazed if you have not seen this video. And the seventh aspect of Al-Latif is that the goodness that Allah provides is hidden, right? Like I said in the beginning, for those people who feel that they're not seeing any good in it, right? Let's take coronavirus. I'm sure you've heard enough lectures about that everything has a benefit in it, but that is what we need to realize is Allah is Al-Latif. You might not see a benefit in coronavirus, but there are so many benefits that I can just list out right now personally, and everyone I'm sure who's watching can attest to that. There are negatives, but there are so many positives, which could not have possibly happened unless coronavirus happened, right? There's people who did not spend time with their families, and now they were forced to spend that time and get to know their family members and realize how big of a blessing family is. And many others benefited in different ways. For people who were not in touch with the masajid of Allah, right? We all love our masajid, and we all claim that we miss the masjid, but the truth is many of us weren't even going to the masjid for even a single prayer in congregation. we would show up maybe once in a while for Jummah prayer. And this virus made us realize how beautiful even that one Jummah prayer, that experience of the masjid was, and what the masjid means in the life of a believer. And so there are hidden gems and goodness in everything that Allah does. That's what Al-Latif means. So I'm going to summarize, and then we're going to take up a story of a prophet who fully proves the last point of Allah, that his benefits are hidden from his creation, and you just have to put your trust in Allah. You might not see the big picture, but at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you love him and you show that you are obedient to him, you are not going to come out as a loser. You're always going to be coming out as someone who succeeded. Look at Nuh alayhi salam. Look at other prophets of Allah. Nuh alayhi salam worshipped, gave dawah for 950 years, only to get less than 100 people to accept Islam. His own son and his own wife would not accept Islam, but he was considered successful. Whereas there would be prophets that would come with no followers whatsoever, and they were successful. Now, if they put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they might not, you might wonder, why is it that a prophet, with all of the goodness that he brought, didn't even get one person following them? Because it wasn't about numbers ever in Islam. It was about your sincerity, and whether you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if you obey him, you will always come out successful on the other side. But a lot of times we start disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we want answers. We want, hey, I put this effort, where are my results? Why might I see my results? And we start questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's when the problem happens. But if you put your trust in Allah, you say, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is the best one who takes care of my affairs, and I put my trust in Allah, you will always come out happy at the end. So the 7 points that I mentioned about Al-Latif are the one who, let's start from the step by step. Number one, who was forbearing, the one who can punish people, but he's patient and he doesn't punish them. The one who facilitates for his creation help and aids them through other creation. The one who is full of grace, the one who gives gifts, which comes from Lataif. Gifts comes from the same root word, so he gives you things that you don't deserve. Gifts are things that you don't really deserve. It's just a bonus, right? So Allah keeps on giving you gifts. Hidden, he is hidden and not able to be visualized by his creation. So he's hidden from his creation. He is also well aware of everything, so nothing is hidden from him. He is the one who creates. His creation is very sophisticated in its design and the way they operate, and the whole universe, the way it has been put together. And the one whose goodness is hidden from creation, so you don't realize the good that he's doing to you, and you simply have to put your trust in him. And so, with that said, we're going to take the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And if you look through Surah Yusuf, you'll notice when the story ends, and alhamdulillah, most of us are aware of what happens in the story. Yusuf alayhi salam gets separated from his family. He had jealous brothers who tried to assassinate him. And one among the brothers suggested, who had a soft spot, who suggested that let's just throw him in the well, because he didn't really want his brother to die. So Allah put that mercy and allowed things to change. So they didn't end up killing Yusuf alayhi salam, but he was thrown into a well, and then how he comes out of the well is another story on its own. Then he gets seduced by the wife of the minister, and then he ends up in jail because he prefers jail and being imprisoned over the situation that he found himself in, disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by having a haram relationship with that lady. So he takes the other option. In the prison cell, he's stuck, and a king has a dream, and because of that dream, he was able to get out of the prison. And because of that interpretation of the dream, he ends up getting the position of a leader in Egypt, and ends up leading Egypt and the economy of Egypt, and ends up at the end meeting with his brothers and his family, where his father, who had a dream in the beginning, is manifested and it comes true. And at that point, if you notice, Yusuf alayhi salam in that story actually calls on to Allah by his name Al-Latif. it's beautiful that everything comes together. Now, the reason Yusuf al Islam is a perfect example of Allah Latif, the one whose goodness is hidden from his creation, is because every stage of his life, if you were to just stop at that stage, you would think, there's nothing good in this situation. Like, how could this be good for him? But it was the best thing that happened to him. For example, the dream of Yaqub alayhi salam for his son Yusuf alayhi salam, where he sees a dream of 11 stars, the sun and the moon prostrating to Yusuf alayhi salam. So, in the beginning, you might say, what's the big significance of this dream? But because the dream happened, that is one of the reasons Yaqub alayhi salam never gave up on Yusuf alayhi salam and finding Yusuf alayhi salam, because he knew as a prophet that this dream has to come true. So Yusuf cannot be dead, and he just continued to pursue through the pain, and cried so much. He obviously was a human being, and he still missed his son, and he cried so much that he lost his eyesight. But he never lost hope in his son and meeting his son one day, because he knew that that dream had to be the truth. So look at the way Allah planned this whole thing in the end for Yusuf alayhi salam to be saved and be brought back to with his father, and his father never giving up on Yusuf alayhi salam, because his father knew that this dream is going to come true, and he cannot give up on his son. So that's one of those hidden gems and benefits behind the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam. That's why Allah tells us, وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And I know from Allah that which you do not know. So when the kids, the children of Yaqub alayhi salam just kept telling him, just give up on him, he said, I know from Allah which you do not know. Right? So he never, that's the dream. He's referring to the dream. So a person who knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he knows his subtle names and his beautiful names would have a very different outlook towards life, and his confidence would be at a very different level. Then let's take it to the next step. He gets thrown into the well. And that's obviously a horrible thing, but what could possibly be good about being thrown into the well? Well, first of all, let's say he wasn't thrown into the well. He would have to go through a very toxic environment growing up in that family, where his other brothers are jealous of him, and so he probably would not have become Yusuf al Islam, the great prophet of Allah, if he had to be in that toxic environment. So being thrown into the well was actually a way for him to grow. That was a growth opportunity for him. Like the word is, it wasn't a punishment. Like, a lot of people ask, is Corona a punishment, or what is going on? If an experience helps you get closer to Allah, then it's not, you don't call that a punishment, you call that an opportunity. You call that a trial, but not a punishment. So in this case, Yusuf alayhi salam actually grew to become this great man and a great prophet of Allah, because he was thrown into the well, because that led him to a bigger journey, which ended up taking him into Egypt. Probably would not have happened in other scenario, right? So by removing him, Yusuf alayhi salam, from the care of his father, Allah is teaching Yusuf alayhi salam also to depend on Allah, Al-Hayy, right? We talked about Al-Hayy, to the one who's ever living. And even though his dad is not there for him, but Allah is there for him, and that will lead him into bigger growth opportunities for the future. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed Yusuf alayhi salam from the plotting of the seducing woman by putting him in jail, right? So jail doesn't seem like a good thing either. It just seems like, why is this happening to Yusuf alayhi salam? But that is where Al-Latif was working in a subtle way for a much bigger plan for Yusuf alayhi salam. Had he been stuck in that house, in that toxic environment, he would not have been able to, he would have been in a tough situation, because the woman was not just, you know, giving hints of having a relationship, but she was physically, closing the doors down and plotting and planning to make him commit that sin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extracted him out of that hardship. One of the points scholars mention is, for example, a Muslim child in Las Vegas, right, could have been uh, pulled into a madrasa, a Quran madrasa, where he ends up becoming a hafid, right? So with Las Vegas, which is known as the city of sins, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could extract someone away from all the haram, and he ends up in a madrasa where he just dedicates himself and ends up becoming a hafid. And so this is Al-Latif protecting him through that masjid, through that safe space to preserve him even in the most toxic environment. So Yusuf al-Islam being put in jail was actually the best thing that happened to him, right? And this is what Yusuf al-Islam said: قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين. He said, he himself asked for this. He said, "Oh my Lord, prison is more to my liking than that to which they are inviting me. And if you do not avert me from their plan, I might incline towards them and thus be of the ignorant." Right? So the test was very tough for him. And he said, "I'd rather be in jail than to be going through these plots and planning." And he's a slave at the end of the day, right? He was a slave, and the lady was his master, so she could force him to do whatever she wanted. And he preferred to be in prison. As he ends up in prison, what happens first is he ends up giving dawah to the prisoners, right? So this created an opportunity for him to give dawah to people and tell them about Islam. So Yusuf al-Islam never uh, thought about things negatively. He always, just like all the other prophets of Allah, they took the worst of situations and they made the best out of them. And so in jail, he's giving dawah, right? And many of us, many of my close friends who've had other friends, and some of them actually themselves, actually became one of the best Muslims when they were put in jail for actual crime that they committed. In this case, Yusuf al-Islam is innocent, but there's many prisoners in jails that come out being the best of Muslims because they get to study Islam, they have the extra time, and they really have the time to ponder, and they're not distracted by all the hustles and bustles of the world, and they end up coming out one of the best Muslims. I actually used to visit Muslims in jails, and one of the brothers there was a hafiz and an expert in Arabic because he was stuck there for 20 years, and he was their imam basically. He started with zero understanding. And how many of us would love to know Arabic language who are not Arab speakers, right? Or even the Arab speaking folks who are not able to understand the Quran because it's a different type of Arabic. How much we would love to have that opportunity, but we always get busy or things come up. Whereas this person in jail became the imam of that whole congregation because he focused and studied. So there's a lot of khair, and he gave dawah, and many people accepted Islam. So any situation that we are put in, we can find a way that would be beneficial for us out of it. There's nothing that a believer should feel is a end of the line for them or the most depressing situation because there's something you can do to get yourself out of it. The the next thing that happens is then Yusuf is eventually placed to meet the king because he interprets the dream of one of the prisoners, and then he ends up being connected to the king because the person who he had his dream interpreted was able to remember that Yusuf al-Islam had that ability, and because of that, he gets connected with the king and ends up becoming the treasurer of Egypt. All of this was the planning of Al-Latif, the one who works in subtle ways. So now that was Yusuf al-Islam, but if you look back, any one of us were to look back in our life, you will find that Al-Latif, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in situations in your life where you had no idea why this is happening, ended up being the best thing for you. Maybe you wanted to marry a woman and that didn't work out. And now 10 years later, you see what happened to that lady, how she's the most non-practicing person, would have been the worst person for your child, for your children to raise your children. And you're saying, Alhamdulillah, I didn't end up marrying that person. But at that time, all you could think of was love, and I'm in love, and nobody understands me, and we were meant for each other, and all of that lovey-dovey stuff. But you move on, you get more wiser, you look back 10 years ago, and you're like, Alhamdulillah, that would have been the worst person for me, and the worst person for my children and my future, right? Or you look for a city that you wanted to move to, and you didn't end up moving there, and it ended up resulting in a big dawah project in the location that you're at, right? Ended up bringing many people to Islam, and you realize had you moved to that other city for a better job opportunity, yes, you would have had a big house, and you would have had a better this or that. However, you wouldn't have that opportunity to bring so many people to closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the projects that you were able to do in your current location. So, I mean, this list goes on and on. And if you look at the subtle one, Al-Latif, the way he works in our lives, benefits us, you would be shocked to know that every one of us has had Allah Al-Latif playing not playing his part, because we don't use that terminology for Allah, but him planning and perfectly, you know, situating things for you so that you have better results in the future. So that is, my brother and sister, Al Latif. We should love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much after learning about this name. And I will end by giving you the fruits of, if you really live with Al Latif in your life and you're connected to Al Latif, here are the fruits of knowing Al Latif. Number one, it will increase your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would immediately think twice about committing sins, especially the major sins, because you know who Al Latif is and that nothing is hidden from him, as Luqman alayhi salam mentioned, and that the fact that you don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mean He does not see us. And also the thoughts that we have in our heart, He knows about every inner detail because He created us and He is Al Latif. And it should increase our love for Allah. The second is that we've fully started to depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we realize that the dua, that what Allah can do for us is far better than our own planning. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And it might be that you dislike something while it is good for you, and it might be that you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you do not know. And that's why dua of istikhara is one of the great things that we can do when we're in state of confusion, to make dua of istikhara and refer your affairs back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and let Him help you make the right decision. And lastly is to monitor your actions and your statements. Because Allah is subtle, He knows physical sins that we commit, but He also knows the little things that we do to hurt other people. And the statements that we say are very hurtful to people, and so we might be very good in our actions. We might have a good control now of our physical actions. We're doing our 5 daily prayers, fasting, zakat. All of the 5 physical pillars of Islam are taken care of, but then we're very careless with what we say with our tongue and monitoring our statements. And we think that we're saying the right thing while we're hurting other people. And that's something very dangerous, because the Prophet ﷺ told us that if you can guarantee me 2 things, that you will preserve these 2 things, and that is what's between your jaw and what's between your legs, meaning your private parts and your tongue, then I guarantee for that person Jannah. And many people end up, not many people, but majority of people, because one of the Sahaba was actually surprised when he heard that people will end up in the hellfire because of their tongue. It's such a small organ. And the Prophet said, "May Allah, may your mother lose you." This is just one of the way to show his surprise. Is there anyone who goes to the hellfire more than because of what they say with their tongue? It's one of the most dangerous things, which leads people to the hellfire. So may Allah protect us. Hopefully, inshallah, everyone, this was beneficial. I'll just end here today. This is such a powerful name. It has so many layers that if we just call on to one name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that kind of conviction, it could be life-changing for us. So, inshallah, if we get the opportunity, we'll continue on discussions of more names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in this series, we covered Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum, Al-Latif. We covered Al-Ghafir, Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar, Al-Wudud. We covered Al-Afu. And so we have a good amount of names of Allah that we can continue to use after Ramadan, inshallah. I also request you guys, if you benefited at all from this, to please make dua for me and the organizers that set this up and my family, and ask for my forgiveness. And if I hurt anyone, please forgive me. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.